afternoon, y'all. Ryno in Sacktown coming to you, live edition of the King's Court. 18 eyeballs up there. I love it. Happy to have you here, giving you a different option this afternoon here in Sacramento. We had a great show last night, you guys. We talked about the Kings' grades. We talked about the season. We kind of got into some particulars about the offseason in terms of what the Kings can do, what they can't do with the salary cap, with the new CBA going into effect. And one thing's for certain, Kings fans are pretty certain. I used certain twice. I don't know why I did that. Kings fans are getting comfortable being uncomfortable. That was a theme of last night, whether it was Alex, whether it was Jay, whether it was Chang, J Cal. I could go on and on. Some great calls last night, Finchy. But it seems like for this team to take the next step, whatever that's going to be, and I thought that NBA guru Zach brought some good perspective to the conversation. And I know Grant hopped on him a little bit for it, saying, well, we haven't been in the playoffs in 16 years, yada, yada, yada. Dago, welcome to the party, y'all. If you guys would like to join the King's Court today, you are more than welcome to join. I'm going to put the link in here so you can call the show. I did not update the QR, so that is not going to work. But you know what will work is the link to our auction, the end of the season auction. You guys know about it. If you've been watching, if you don't like that, the last week or so, we've got 3 really special Jerry Reynolds shirts that are up for grabs. One signed by Jerry and Larry Bird. The other was signed by Jerry. And then the third signed by Jerry and Wayman Tisdale. One of the Sacramento greats. One of the best Kings behind the scenes of all time, according to Napes. And those are original Jerry Reynolds show. Sorry, guys, I'm a little bit loud. I just realized that, man, rough opening here. Let's put that volume down. There we go. Original Jerry Reynolds show shirts from channel 31. Unbelievable. The 80s. I think it was 80s, early 90s maybe. But anyways, I digress. We've got those up because we don't often ask for donations. We pride ourselves on bringing you the best content in Sacramento, and we try to make it not cost you a damn thing, right? And we appreciate the super chats. We appreciate all of the support that you've given us over the 2 seasons, whether it be If You Don't Like That or the King's Court. But it's how we fund the channel from time to time. It's how we pay our expenses. It's how we continue to grow the channel. Think about the capabilities we brought in this year, taking phone calls. We can get you guys up on video. We've done so much other things. So we're going to keep that going for next season. So if you would like to bid, the shirts also will be framed and they come with special experiences. Want to play golf with me at Valley High Country Club? You can do it. Want some digital time with Grant? You can do it. What's the third one? Oh, you want to sit courtside in Stockton with me? Go to dinner at Bennett's first? We can do it. Those are all parts of the experience. So I put at the top of the show, we're going to do exit interviews. We talked some about Malik Monk last night. We talked about things getting uncomfortable maybe, because what's the next move for the Kings? Let's think about it for a second. It's not cut and dry. The pieces that you guys, or many of you and gals, want to see taken out of Sacramento, guess what? They're not super desirable to other teams. And in fact, I think some of the pieces that we're talking about moving, Harrison Barnes, I'm not going to put Kevin Huerter in the same category. Love to get your thoughts on that as well. But I think that they're valuable pieces. At least Harrison is still valuable to this team. And you might say he didn't do a lot this season. I asked Jerry last night, I said, is that a product of maybe the offense not being as structured as it was last year? Or is it a product of Harrison not getting himself involved? And I think it's somewhere in the middle. I've talked about Mike Brown saying that the Kings were not running a ton of called plays this year. And when they were, it was the players calling them, not Mike Brown. And Mike Brown called the plays for the most part last season. I've got some mind-blowing statistics for you. If you didn't get my grade for the Kings last night. I'll give it to you again. But first, we're going to do some exit interviews. So let's hear from De'Aaron Fox first. And I want to get all of you involved. If you would like to join the Kings court, hit the link in the chat. And Dago, he's hopping back in. It's a product of not playing with intensity. Yes and no, Dago. Yeah, there were nights the Kings did not have intensity, and there was nights that the Kings did have intensity. I mean, really what it is, Dago, is it's the Kings beating the Kings. I talked about it last night, but getting back to the audio yesterday, the guys had their exit interviews with the media. Here's De'Aaron Fox.
Finish this year, how disappointed are you guys by sort of the ending? And how do you guys move forward sort of into this offseason?
I mean, I think obviously it's a disappointing inning. I mean, you want to continue to play for more. I mean, I don't think we were bad this year, but obviously the West got tougher, and I don't think we stepped up to that plate. Obviously, we can look at countless games of we had the lead or games we should have won, and you look back at that, and it definitely bit us in the back.
There was a lot of them, wasn't there? I can think of 3 or 4 off the top of my head. And the NBA did get better, but I think that we're starting to use the NBA got better as an excuse. I'm going to tell you why in a second. Kings fans, since 85, can we move people to create more money for Monk? Can we buy Sasha out? Way too early. I appreciate the ingenuity. You guys, I'm being honest. I call you the best and most knowledgeable fans in basketball because you hit all 3 of us last night with some really good scenarios. In terms of buying people out, that's not going to happen. And could you move people? Possibly. But remember, with the early bird, I call it the early bird special, Seinfeld fans, but the Kings have rights to negotiate with Malik Monk prior to him hitting free agency because he was signed here. Now, what up, Oscar? What we doing today? Happy to be here. Hope you're happy to be here. Appreciate it. Sat Kings Rock, no, we cannot. We would have to get rid of 30 million or so. That's what I was getting to. We'll put Oscar back up. What's up, brother? So getting back to it, the Kings can offer Malik 4 years at 78 million and some change. I think it's 78.4 is the exact number. His open market number is going to be bigger. Now, how many teams can realistically sign Malik Monk? The new CBA goes into effect this year. I've talked about it extensively. There's maybe, and Jerry laid out the teams, a handful that are in a very good position to sign him. But here's the caveat. It was really clear yesterday that Malik is looking forward to free agency, as he should. He's earned this opportunity. He should be the 6th man of the year. Now, what does Malik want? That's the next question. And he says he wants to start. He wants to start, but he's open to coming off of the bench. I don't see a starting role for him in Sacramento as this team is currently constructed. So does that have any bearing into it? And then you look at that handful of teams that we mentioned, Orlando, one of them, San Antonio. Now that's a little bit of a scary one to me. But Orlando, even though they're in the East, I don't like it as much either. He's with Banchero, but I digress. There's opportunities where everybody's saying the Kings are the best opportunity for Malik Monk. Yes and no. There's some good opportunities for him, and he's going to get to explore it. Now, the question becomes just what all of you said. What can the Kings do to get creative? What can they do to open up cap space? Because they don't really have any. The projected cap right now is at 141 million. The Kings' projected salary right now is at 151.5. So that means they're going to take away the Malik Monk stuff. Let's talk about the mid-level exception. The mid-level exception is going to be where the Kings make or break this offseason. And who can they get for that? What can be done? They can't trade their first-round pick. Now, remember that. They traded their first-round pick last year. Can't do it in back-to-back years. So They're going to have to draft somebody. Can the Kings end up in can they get higher in the lottery? It's happened in years past. I've seen crazier things, even though I don't quite understand how that process works. And I think that there is a better way to do it. And Oscar's right. It does come down to the money. Malik, did anybody watch Malik's press conference yesterday? So I did the King's Court this morning on Malik's. I kind of did his exit interview. And by the way, y'all, if you are just joining, welcome to the King's Court. I am Ryan in Sacktown. We're here on If You Don't Like That. From time to time, we do live episodes. So you are more than welcome to call the show. I'm going to repost the link right here if you would like to join in. You don't have to be on camera. So I'd love to have you if you'd like to come in. But getting back to what I was saying, it's one of those things where it's time for the Kings. Not only do they have to decide what they're going to do with the future, don't we have to address the elephant in the room and kind of ask, who is this team? What's this team's identity? And the first thing that comes to mind is 3-point shooting. But then you saw the defense that the Kings played at the end of the year. And to me, if I look at the Kings last year having the best offense in the NBA, the highest offensive rating in NBA history per that metric, and I look at what they did this year defensively, the defense is more impressive to me. The defense, to me, is going to move the needle in the Western Conference. Look at the scores of the Western Conference playoff games, the first round games. They're low because defense picks up. So which way is the team going to go? It's a fork in the road. The guru checking in, NBA guru Zach, an automatic F of an offseason goes automatically if we do not retain him. Well, you're going to have to do something more than 78.4. Zach, you and I, we have a friendly wager on this one. We also need a wing who can create some offense. Like, dude, I feel like the Kings really, if I look at the first offseason before with Monty here, I look in Mike Brown here, I look at the trade deadline that year, I look at this last offseason, I look at this last trade deadline, and to me, the most disappointing trade deadline in the Monty McNair and Mike Brown era has to be the first. There was guys like Hachimura. There were other guys that were good glue pieces for this team to bring in, and they could have brought them in for cheap, y'all. Cheap. So I haven't seen the market really that good in a while. And I think although the Kings wanted to stay pat, they liked what they had good chemistry going. Man, that was a buyer's market. That was not a seller's market. That was a buyer's market. And when you look at a lot of the teams in the West that are in the playoffs right now, it's that trade deadline that they improved. The Lakers improved mightily last season at the trade deadline. Who else? No, not Houston. I could go on. But there were the Clippers, for instance. The Clippers improved big time. Hey, thank you so much. I really appreciate that, Wilborn. Hit the thumbs up and give us a like if you enjoy what you are hearing. There was no bump in today because of copyright. So if you want the bump in, you got to go listen to the audio version. Maybe we can replace Monk out with a Gary Trent Jr. We've already had Terrence Davis. We've seen that story. We know how it plays out. Defensive mix with Keon, offensive mind with a defensive-minded player for the bench. Now, it's a good point because I think this is my opinion, strictly my opinion, but you guys know I talk a lot of basketball with Jerry Reynolds and Grant, a lot of basketball, and neither of them have told me I'm wrong or it's way off base. I look at Keon Ellis, and I think, if anything, Keon has shown this Sacramento organization, number one, that you need a 3-and-D in that 2 position. And I get, Grant says all the time, the 2 is the 2. It's the shooting guard for a reason. in this incarnation of the Sacramento Kings, especially if you're going to have De'Aaron Fox doing what he's doing offensively, and really relying more heavily on that three ball than we've seen more in the past, then you got to have a 3-and-D guy there where there's no expectation of getting him shots. He gets shots within the offense, but you don't have to draw up plays, and you got to use those opportunities to grow and draw up plays for Keegan Murray. You got to do it for guys like that are going to be the glue of this team going forward. And to answer all the questions out there, I'll just tell it flat to you like this. I only think there's one player on this roster that's untouchable, and that is Domantas Sabonis. Everybody else, to me, could be traded. Not saying that's going to happen, but the Kings are not in a very good position to shake up this roster significantly without making some moves that shock the system. That's why I said at the top, we've got to get comfortable being uncomfortable. We go back to De'Aaron Fox really quick yesterday on exit interviews.
De'Aaron, for you, how much is like just your confidence in the direction and kind of the construction of this group shaken by having a step back this year? I mean, I think we put ourselves, we were in positions to, have a better record. 46 wins is not bad, but at the end of the day, you see where this conference is going. You look back at games that we should have won, and you're looking like, oh, we could have had 51 wins or 52 wins. And you're sitting in a different spot, but at the end of the day, we didn't. We know that we could have been a better team this year, and we let some games slip away.
What's your credit card debt?
Thank you. Thank you, Oscar. I am the worst about that since getting my board. I am sorry. Thank you, Oscar. Yep, I got you guys. Can you hear me now? All right, we're good. So, what I was saying is with De'Aaron Fox in the three ball, okay, that's shaken things up a little bit, and it's changed the flow of the offense. And it's not just on De'Aaron, it's also on roster construction. You have a team that is full of basically finishers. You've got two creators in Domantas Sabonis, 2.5 creators, because Davion didn't do it the entire season, but at the end of the season, he did a great job. So I'm going to say Davion's a half there, and you've got Fox and you've got Sabonis. So you need distributors. Now, getting back to the NBA argument, we left some games out there. The NBA's got better, and the Kings offense. What I was telling you is the Kings offense regressed this year. I'm sorry, guys. We're just falling apart here, huh? The Kings offense regressed this year. And the major statistical categories that we look at, it's been a nightmare. These are the only categories the Kings improved in on the offseason, all right? You ready? Offensive rebounds. They're up 13.6%. How about turnovers? They're down 2.5%, even though Sabonis and De'Aaron Fox are in the top 20 in turnovers in the NBA. That is not their fault. So that's not totally their fault. The organization has some fault there as well, because you've allowed teams to focus their game plan around De'Aaron and Sabonis in terms of distributing the ball. That is exactly what happened in the Pelicans game, especially the last one. They said, hey, Sabonis, Fox, beat us. And they spread the Kings out offensively. Keon, not going to create his own shot most times. Keegan, getting better at creating his shot. Harrison, he can create his shot down low, but not usually as much on the perimeter. So that, to me, is one of the biggest fatal flaws for this team. Now, the last statistical category that went up this year is made threes. Made threes. It's up 4.4%. That's it. The Kings regressed in every other category. They were worse than last year. And here's the most troubling of them. And it really, to me, goes back and it starts with your quarterback and his approach to the game and shooting the three. The extra point you get from De'Aaron Fox shooting the three does not make up for the benefits you get of him being able to get to the rim, him blowing by guys, and how that really gets everybody else involved. It gets teams into the penalty. It's his strength. Have you ever read Strength Finders? It's focus on your strengths and know your weaknesses. And while three-point shooting is a great strength to have, that's not De'Aaron's specialty. De'Aaron's specialty is exactly what we've said it is. So the other thing there too that I wanted to get at, the shocking stat, free throws. Okay, you ready for this? You ready? Free throw attempts down 16.8%. 16.8%. Made free throws down 21.6%. And you know about the free throw percentage, down 4.5%. I should take that message down. What am I doing? TC, welcome into the King's Court. TC, you there? TC, going once. Oh, there you go. TC? I got
You hear me?
Yeah,
Okay,
welcome
yeah,
to the
look,
King's-
hey, thank you, bro. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course.
Hey, so check it out, man. What I got, in my opinion, I wasn't a fan of the whole live by the three, die by the three BS that the Kings has pulled. Like Mike and Jay need to open it up. We need to start doing some pin downs, pick and rolls, like running actions, just like kind of like how the Warriors, how Kerr adapted about doing the whole spray three and spread offense, 5 out. Well, you got to add different actions to that, bro. So it seems like if we're not hitting, then we're losing. If we're hitting, everything's fine and dandy. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you, TC. You're making a great point. Keep
Yeah,
going.
yeah. So everything is fine and dandy when they're hitting, bro. But in the threes,
Oh,
it seems
now,
like nobody knows. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
TC, I'm losing you. TC, I'm losing you. Try to call back. I'll get you back on. In the meantime, the reception was bad. I'll kind of echo what he's saying, and he's 100% correct. We talked about it last night, the three ball. It's where the snowballs started for this Kings team, and it's also what won this Kings team games at up until the All-Star break. That is how the Kings won their basketball games. After the All-Star break, it was defense. So you see a huge difference. You know immediately when the Kings are running set plays. Think about the start of the Warriors game. TC with an excellent point there. We've got a couple more questions we're going to get to. Keep getting those in. Remember, you can call the King's Court. I would love to have you here. We'll be going till about 3 o'clock today, and we'll keep hearing from the players with their exit interviews. The link is back in the chat. Here's De'Aaron Fox again.
You're like, oh, it's a bad season. If we do consider that a bad season, then we know that we have to be much better. But as a team, we know that we have to be better. We have to build differently, and I mean that's not for me to do. That's for for the front office. But for me, I come in. You put in the work, and you go out there with the guys that you have. You go out and you battle. And I'm glad that we were able to do it with this group. I mean, 2 wins from last year put you from the 3rd seed to the 9th seed. So this conference isn't getting any easier. We have to continue to build towards the future. And I don't think like I said,
Here's the question, and I did the King's Court this morning, and I didn't ask that question, but maybe I should ask it now and get your thoughts on it. Maybe it's our fault. Maybe this team isn't as good as we thought they were, and there's nothing wrong with that. I think them getting the 3 seed put expectations in our heads. I mean, you don't make the playoffs for 16 years, 16 long years, and then you get the 3 seed. Because yeah, he's right. 2 less wins, but it was a much, much different Western Conference and NBA as a whole. Alberto, tough way to end the season. Are we overreacting? The season did have lots of lows, so maybe having open trade options isn't far fetched. All right, we'll get to that in a second. You think Colby Jones' role will be bigger next year? I don't. If I am the Kings, if I am Monty McNair, if I am Gabriel Harris down in Stockton, their GM, I'm developing Colby. I am putting him on the exact same track as Keon Ellis. And I know they're different players. Colby was he was a second round draft pick. The Kings were targeting him actually in the first round, but were able to move back, and it really helped things out come the trade deadline. But I digress. Keon undrafted. Stockton is developing players. Everybody that's watching this, if this is your first time seeing me here on If You Don't Like That, welcome. I'm Ryan in Sacktown. But here's the thing. I cover the Stockton Kings. I've covered them pretty much all season. And that, my friend Alberto, is going to be the big unknown piece that I am super optimistic about. Not Colby Jones, but the player development and the player scouting that's going on. It's different from what I've seen during my time watching this team, covering this team. I've made it very clear the Stockton, first off, Mason Jones, second team, all NBA G League. You've got Lindsey Harding, coach of the year in the G League. A lot of good things happening down there, but they put their players, the guys that they knew that could have an opportunity to maybe sniff the court this season in Stockton. They put them in similar spots on the floor, and they tried to simulate situations like they would see in game if they were with the main team. And so for Keon, the transition was seamless. And it was the same thing when Kess needed some extra run. They sent him down there. And Kess could have scored 40 or 50 if he wanted to, but that's not why he was there. He was there to really dial in on the 3-and-D, get the confidence not to hesitate when you're on the run, right? And so that's where I think the Kings have a little bit of that secret sauce, and not enough people are talking about it. So will Colby have a big impact? I don't think he will, but keep an eye on him. And let's go over a couple other names in Stockton. One specifically, Jalen Slauson. This kid's a freak. He is athletic as hell. I watched him chase down. Someone. Chase them down from half court with the Western Conference on the line in the G League and damn near get the block, hit his head on the rim almost, and somehow land in a way like a cat that was safe. It was unreal. And the other thing I like about Jalen, and Jalen will give you 3 or 4 of those plays a game. Now, the other plays, he's raw. That's where he needs to grow some more. His composure needs to grow. The game's going a little bit too fast for him. So once he gets more dialed in, that is a guy to watch for. He has got some special athleticism that fits right in with what these Kings do. Go look at his highlights in Stockton. They're right there. And the other thing that he does that I like is I've paid close attention to how these guys communicate in Stockton. They hold each other accountable. I love it. Slauson, you guys know Scal. He's been on the Kings. He's been down there for a while. Slauson was holding Scal accountable one game because Scal didn't get back. So we don't see enough of that with the Kings, right? We don't. And so that's why Malik Monk he's not just important to what they do on the court. He's so important to what they do off the court as well. He keeps that balance in the locker room. When things are bad, he lightens it up. I mean, there's no clear reporting on what happened this season. It kind of that December, January point where Fox was not talking to the media. But one thing that is completely confirmed is Fox's numbers were the worst of the season. Now, he bounced back from it and did great. And I'm not putting the blame on Fox for that situation, but I think we need clarification on what happened. Don't we? If there's a personality defect here, if the guys are not agreeing with what Coach Brown's running, if Coach Brown doesn't think his players can run his system, if the front office and the coach aren't on the same page, I don't have any inclinations of these things, but certainly if you go through a period like that where somebody's not talking to the media for 16 days, you got to ask the question. You really do. Let's see, Kings fan. I agree with the player development in Stockton. You have players like Gabe Vincent. You know what?
Holy moly, Jim Bowley.
Comment of the day so far. Comment of the day. Now, the Kings are not Miami. They're not going to be Miami, but Miami has made a living off of doing this. And exactly that. If you can develop your talent, that's how you're going to have a championship window, especially if you're a small market team, because of this new CBA that's going into effect. I'm telling you, teams are not going to want to get into those penalty aprons, especially not the second apron where you lose your MLE. It's just not going to happen. And I don't see Vivek going over the cap and going into the luxury tax. The luxury tax this year is projected at, I think, or the hard cap, I want to say, is 172. Don't know 100%. I'll get that to you in a second. But yeah, there's, yeah, it's going to be tough for the Kings. I'm looking at it right now. It's going to be tough. So you got to develop that talent. Let's see. Dago jumping back in. Well, is kind of their fault. We saw time and time again some dumb turnovers. Yeah, they shot themselves in the foot. Kings beating the Kings. Keon Ellis, Gabe Vincent. I agree. Player development. We got that already. Dago, Ryan, what about the refs? They played such a huge role in this season. They're making their mark in the playoffs as we speak. Yeah. We got to be careful with the refs, right? Because if the refs don't allow you to play physical and they're calling every little whistle, the Kings are probably not beating Golden State. They're probably, getting beat even worse than we saw down the stretch. Let's be honest about that. Now, the bigger problem to me is instant replay and the referees. It's the combination of the two. Instant replay is broke, and Adam Silver needs to fix it. And here's why I say it's broke. You had multiple times this year. I can think of one specifically where Malik Monk was shoved out of bounds. And the ball was off of him, but the referees gave the ball to Sacramento. It's kind of that old school thing, right? We're not going to call the foul, but you're still going to get the ball. You guys know the unwritten rules of basketball. Well, those are out the window now. You can't do that anymore, and you could really screw a team up by doing it. And that's exactly what the NBA is doing, because then what happens? The play gets challenged. The other team wins the challenge. And not only does an arena full of 18,000 people have to watch Malik Monk get shoved out of bounds and watch the ball go off of him, they then have to watch the referees watch that. That's all they're doing. They're staring at the screen, right? And then they have to make the announcement. Hey, the ball is off Malik Monk. Okay, so if you get what I'm saying, you've got to do something with what can be challenged, what can't be challenged. You've got to... I don't know what the right solution is. I don't. And I've heard, hey, do 4 referees, have, another eye in the sky. 4 referees on the court, it's not going to work. Nor should it need to happen. I mean, it's the NBA. Figure it out, would you? But yeah, I guess really you're gonna, and there is a younger group of referees coming up through the G League. Every time I'm in Stockton, I usually pick their ears. In fact, I was sitting there. It was the game after remember the Lyles hip shuffle, or what did we call it? It was like the hip, whatever it was. You guys know, I think you know the play I'm talking about. I asked the ref, I'm like, hey, so can you explain a hip shuffle or torso shuffle? That's what it was. The torso slide. Shout out to Carmichael Dave for popping in my head right there. The torso slide. He's like, what are you talking about? And I explained it to him because he was reffing the night before, so he didn't see it. And he's like, I'm going to look into it. And so he did. And then the next time I saw him, we talked about it, and he said, yeah. So they've got to find a way you can't, with the new young officials coming up, you can't ref that way anymore. The unwritten rules are out. I mean, the ball doesn't lie. That still works. But giving the ball to the other team because a foul should have been called, Can't happen. And yes, Dago, the 2 minutes reports looked like a joke. Yeah. That last one with Phoenix, and Fox was adamant. Remember, Fox was like, "I was fouled. It's going to come out." And I'm paraphrasing there. And the NBA ultimately said, "No, you weren't fouled." The only call that was found to be incorrect was Keegan Murray's travel. He did not travel. But anytime you're coming down the stretch and you're in the 2 minute report 3 times in 6 games, not good. Not good. Now, that's not good. But what's even worse is when you put yourself in a position like the Kings did to where that could actually screw them. That's on the Kings. That's not on the refs. The refs didn't make the Kings lose to Detroit. The refs didn't make the Kings lose to Charlotte, lose to Portland with an undermanned G League team, almost lose to San Antonio, almost lose to Memphis with literally G League guys. I mean, even that last Portland game, you can't say for the first quarter you weren't a little worried when they had like double-digit offensive rebounds. So good teams don't put themselves in positions like that where you let somebody else determine your destiny. And that's what the Kings did. So De'Aaron Fox continues during his press conference.
As a team, that we were a bad team. I think that we had chances and we just didn't seize those chances.
Hey, Fox, you led the league in steals this year, also high volume three-point shooting with consistency. Those are probably the 2 biggest areas of growth throughout your career. So what's the next step, you think, in your evolution into that star potential that so many people talk about?
I mean, I think just continue to be more efficient on the court, just from all aspects. Continue to be a better defender, continue to get stronger, more athletic. I mean, you look at every aspect of the game. I feel like I can continue to get better as a player. Continue to do whatever my team asks me to win games. I think I wasn't as good late in games this year as I was last year, but like I said, I think we took a step backwards a little bit as a team, and we still have things that we can continue to get better at as a group.
It's a fact. It's an absolute fact. De'Aaron Fox, and I appreciate him saying that because that's what the numbers say. He went from the inaugural player of the year, or not player of the year, but clutch player of the year, to 4th in the NBA in missed field goals. 4th in the NBA, not where you want to be if you are De'Aaron Fox. All right, we're going to get ready to wrap up. Do you have any more questions? Any more comments? Do you want to call the show? It's not too late. I would love to have you guys call in. Thanks for being here. Ryan in Sacktown doing a live episode of the King's Court. Make sure that you check the King's Court on Spotify, Apple, everywhere else. Every day you'll get a new episode of the King's Court, even in the off season. We've got plenty of content. And then also we have some really cool guests coming up. If you have been paying attention to my Twitter profile, if you've been paying attention to any of the communications that have been going out at times, make sure that you go check my Twitter because you'll see some of the people that we are efforting, and I think you're going to be really excited about those. Here, I also want to give you a chance. I want to show you the auction. Here is the auction that we are doing for If You Don't Like That. In fact, a word from the boss, Grant Napier.
Hey, everybody. I want to welcome you to this special auction page. I hope you enjoy the items going back to the late 80s. Terry Reynolds and Larry Bird, their signature, the great late Wayman Tisdale. We got a couple of special auction items. Proceeds are going to benefit this channel and the cost associated with our monthly fees, doing upgrades, and we have a couple of things we want to do in the future. And so we really appreciate your participation, but more than anything, your support. It has been so much fun doing these shows. I speak on behalf of Jerry and Ryan in Sacktown. We would not be doing these shows without your phenomenal support. So thank you very much. Enjoy the auction. And remember this. Oh, if you don't like that, you don't like NBA basketball. Oh, boy.
Holy moly, Jimbo Bowley.
I added that last part in just for fun. So yes, click this link right here. It'll take you to the auctions. And again, so here's the thing. I'm not ironing these shirts. I'm staying the hell away from them. So they're going to be professionally unwrinkled. So the autographs are not affected. But look at these beauties. These are originals from the Jerry Reynolds Show. Literal originals. There's only 3 left that we know of in existence. Bids are low. Look at that. And we appreciate the bids already. But get in there. Only 2 days left. Those are going to come framed to you, by the way. They will be framed. And then also, as I said, you get those really cool experiences with them. Again, the only reason that I am pushing it for Napes and myself and Jerry is we want to keep bringing this content to you, and we want to always keep the product ever improving. Let's go back to the comments really quick, and we will get ready to wrap things up. And just thank you guys for being here. We got 174 live with us on this beautiful Tuesday, even though the Kings are not playing, unfortunately. We've got the player develop. Okay, we are all caught up in the comments. All right. Hey, have a great day. Have a great day. Go Kings. Go Kings. I know we're frustrated. For those asking, my season grade, C minus. C minus. Yeah. You know why it's not? You know why it's passing? I'll end on this. This is why it's a passing grade this year. Because last year, what did everybody talk about? Rim protection, right? Rim protection, defense, and depth. Those were the 3 focus places. Well, I look at where the Kings improved this year. Defensive rebounding up. A lot of that was Sabonis. Now, granted, it was up just by like 0.001. But still, the fact that he gets as much attention as he does and he still got all those boards, huge thing. Led the league. Steals. De'Aaron Fox led the league in steals, up 8.9%, and blocks up 24.4%. So the Kings have a passing grade, albeit barely, because they achieved, although they weren't, it wasn't anything that took the team over the top. They did address some areas of need. So if you want to be tough on Money McNair, if you want to be tough on Vivek, you want to be tough on this organization, I understand it's hard to be patient this long. And I think that you will have a valid complaint if this offseason looks anything like last offseason. But first, we need to know the goals of this offseason. We need to know, is this going to be a defensive team or is this going to be an offensive team? If you ask me, I'm voting defense. Hey, make it a great day.
Holy moly, Jimbaboli.
Go Kings. Light the beam. We will be back tomorrow with another episode of If You Don't Like That, 8 p.m. Kings Court will be with you tomorrow morning as well. Remember, this is the cool thing about the Kings Court, y'all. I make sure that we get the Kings Court out before your other radio shows come on in the mornings. That is really important to me. Let's see. We got a couple more in. Just beast up. I like it. Just beast up. I don't mind keeping Barnes as long as he comes off the bench. We need a starting upgrade. Oh, yeah, a lot of teams do, but it's really hard to do that. Appreciate that, buddy. For those that don't know, Haunted Horse, he's been a huge help this season. He created the If You Don't Like That intro that we've used all season. So big thanks to him. Go give him a follow on the X. We're out of here. Have a great rest of the day. Court is dismissed.